On moonless nights in the open ocean, where the vast, dark and silent water surface resembles a giant velvet carpet, large squid fishing boats quietly move to familiar fishing grounds, beginning an arduous but potentially rewarding journey. The way to catch large squid with long lines is not only a technique but also a blend of experience, patience and a deep understanding of the habits of this mysterious creature. The process begins with the preparation of long lines, also known as long lines, which can be up to tens of kilometers long, attached with thousands of small hooks and fresh bait, usually mackerel, herring or sometimes small squid. These hooks are evenly distributed on the main line with short branch lines, and are marked with buoys to keep them from sinking too deep. At night, when the squids surface to hunt, the crew begins to lower the fishing line into the sea. Following a predetermined route through radar, GPS, and years of experience at sea, the ship moves slowly while the crew continuously lowers the line, adding a new buoy and hook to each section, until the entire long line system is completely placed on the sea surface. After a few hours, or at dawn, the crew begins the process of retrieving the line. This is the most difficult and endurance-demanding part of the entire process. Large reels are operated by mechanical machines to gradually pull the fishing line onto the ship. When each large squid, some up to a meter long and weighing 15 to 20 kilograms, is pulled out of the water, they struggle violently, spraying black ink everywhere. The crew must be extremely careful not to be injured by the sharp tentacles or strong blows from this muscular creature. After being pulled up, the squid will be quickly removed from the hook, sorted and put into cold storage to keep it fresh. There are nights when each fishing line can bring in hundreds of large squid, sparkling silver under the high-power headlights of the ship. However, there are also nights when the whole crew only pulls up a few dozen squid or worse. Nothing but seaweed and miscellaneous fish. Long-line squid fishing is not only a battle of wits between humans and the ocean, but also a race against time and weather. A sudden storm can cause the entire fishing line system to break or drift, causing heavy damage. Therefore, fishermen must constantly monitor weather forecasts, adjust routes and line release times accordingly. In addition, they also face fierce competition from foreign vessels and the risk of resource depletion if overfished. But despite all the difficulties, many generations of fishermen still stick to the sea, passing down the long-line squid fishing technique from generation to generation as a precious treasure. For them, each trip is not only a way to make a living but also a source of pride, a testament to the strength and courage of humans in the face of the vast ocean. As the sun slowly rose above the horizon, the pale light dyed the undulating sea a golden yellow. The process of pulling the fishing line continued at high intensity. On the deck, each member of the crew was highly focused, their hands wearing thick gloves, their eyes following each section of line being pulled up. Every time a large squid appeared, They immediately acted in unison to avoid being sprayed with ink or tightly wrapped by its tentacles. Because large squid have considerable strength and often react violently when pulled out of the water, each squid that was brought back was the result of hours of perseverance, sweat, and facing danger. After being netted, all the squid would be sorted on the spot, separating those that met export standards from those that were smaller or injured. The process of preserving the squid was also very important to maintain the quality of the fresh meat. Most ships are equipped with deep freeze systems. The squid is quickly frozen immediately after being put into storage, at temperatures ranging from -30 to -40 degrees Celsius, to maintain its freshness as when it was first caught from the sea. On board, the salty smell of the sea blends with the fishy smell of squid and human sweat, making the air always thick. But in that hardship, people can see the beauty of dedication, perseverance and hope. With successful sea trips, each ship can collect from several tons to dozens of tons of squid, bringing in large revenues for the whole crew and supporting the livelihoods of many coastal families. Not only that, products from giant squid also play an important role in the global seafood supply chain. Especially in markets such as Japan, Korea, the US and Europe, where squid is popular in sashimi, sushi or grilled and fried specialties. However, for long-line squid fishing to develop sustainably, today's fishermen must also adapt to changes. They learn how to use modern positioning devices, squid school detectors, and water temperature radars, technologies that help determine the location of squid movements more accurately. Some boats are even equipped with automatic fishing rods or sensors that signal when squid bites the hook to save labor. Measures to protect the marine environment and control catches are also more focused on to ensure ecological balance and maintain long-term resources. However, long-line fishing for giant squid still retains its traditional nature, a profession that requires practical experience, understanding of the ocean, and courage and fearlessness. Every fisherman who ventures out to sea carries in his heart the dream of conquering the ocean, searching for bumper squid seasons, and bringing precious seafood from the deep sea to the mainland. And in each cast of the line, each sleepless night drifting in the open sea, they live and work as silent warriors of the ocean, extending the nation's fishing tradition through each white-capped wave returning from a long voyage. The ship carrying a large cargo of squid quietly entered the port while it was still early. The first rays of morning light shone on the ship's silver-grey hull tinged with sea salt, reflecting the fatigue but satisfaction on the sailors' faces. After docking, the squid was quickly brought ashore, unloaded by a specialized crane and refrigerated truck system. A portion would be transferred to processing plants for sorting, cleaning, and packaging according to export standards. while the remainder would be distributed directly to local wholesale markets and restaurants. The work on land was not as strenuous as at sea, but it also required speed and precision, because squid is a type of seafood that is sensitive to temperature and can easily lose quality if not properly preserved. Meanwhile, on the ship, the crew took the opportunity to rest, do laundry, maintain fishing lines, and check fishing equipment to prepare for the next trip. The cycle continued, the sea called, and they set out again. For long-line squid fishermen, the sea is not only a place to make a living but also a teacher, a friend, a vast world where they have spent their whole lives. They learn to observe the currents, wind direction, water temperature and squid migration to predict where to cast their lines most effectively. They also learn to stick together, work as a unified unit. And support each other in dangerous situations such as storms, broken fishing lines, or mechanical problems in the middle of the ocean. There have been many cases where squid boats have struggled for hours in storms, or had their boats run aground. But thanks to their solidarity and extensive experience, they have overcome and brought their boats back safely. This profession is not for the faint-hearted or those who prefer leisure, because it is associated with constant homesickness, hasty cold meals between shifts, and unpredictable risks from nature. But in return, when the boat returns with a hold full of squid, joy is evident in the eyes and genuine smiles of the people living a life of salt and wind. For them, each squid is not only a product of the sea but also the crystallization of sweat, skills, and silent sacrifice. In the context of the global seafood industry facing challenges of climate change, resource depletion, and pressure from the international market, long-line squid fishing still stands firm as a symbol of the strong vitality of the sea people. It proves that, no matter how modern the technology is, it still requires the calloused hands, keen eyes, and passionate hearts of the fishermen. And it is they, the people who are not afraid of the darkness in the middle of the ocean, not afraid of big waves and strong winds, who are silently keeping the flame of the fishing profession never extinguished, so that each fresh squid continues to appear on the dining tables of many families around the world, as a living proof of the arduous but noble journey in the vast ocean during each peak squid season. When the sea temperature and the moon cycle reach the ideal threshold, long-line squid fishing fleets set sail simultaneously, creating a bustling scene at the harbor. Long reels of line are tightly wound, baskets of fresh bait are prepared, fishermen wear life jackets, checking every screw, every pulley, every winch on the deck. They know that just a small mistake in the middle of the ocean can cost them the entire trip or worse, their lives. At sea, there is no room for subjectivity. Fleets often coordinate information, share coordinates of where squid schools appear, and maintain constant radio contact to warn each other about bad weather or risks that may hinder the fishing process. Each night of casting the line is a gamble, sometimes encountering schools of thousands of squid gathered in the cold water, sometimes miles of long line with only a few empty hooks left. But that is also the law of the profession, where luck and experience always go hand in hand. Experienced fishermen often have sea eyes. Just by looking at the watercolor, feeling the wind direction. They can guess where the squid gather, where there is a nutrient-rich upwelling that attracts the squid to eat the bait. Some captains also combine satellite data, sea surface temperature images and wave charts to make decisions on the most effective fishing route. Inside the boat, the shift is divided into many shifts. Each shift consists of several people taking turns monitoring the fishing line, supervising the equipment and handling the squid when reeling in the line. During peak times, no one in the crew is allowed to sleep for more than a few hours, because the rhythm of pulling the line and handling the squid is very fast, requiring absolute speed and precision. After being removed from the hook, the squid is put into a quick washer, then pre-frozen before being put into the storage tank. For exported squid, it must also go through the step of measuring size, classifying by quality and labeling for traceability, a mandatory standard for the international market. On each ship, there are many stories of everyday life. Some have been involved in squid fishing for more than 30 years, knowing every fishing ground like the back of their hand. Some are from the younger generation, taught by their fathers and uncles, learning while facing the harsh reality of the ocean. They tell each other stories of catching a record catch of squid, of encountering a shark that bit their line, of nearly dying in a big storm, or of holidays spent hundreds of nautical miles from the mainland, only able to send a few hasty lines to their wives and children via radio. But above all, they still choose to stick to the sea. Not because they have no other choice, but because there, they find themselves. The feeling of pulling each giant squid from the ocean floor onto the deck, sweating profusely. Heart pounding with exhaustion but eyes shining with victory, is a feeling that no other profession can bring. That is what makes them, trip after trip, set sail in the salty smell of the wind and the strong fishy taste of the sea, to continue the journey of fishermen at the forefront of the wind and waves, preserving an ancient profession in the midst of the turbulent modern technological era. And so the cycle of the ocean, of fishing lines, of squid boats continues to repeat itself. Day after day, season after season. There are times when the sea is calm. Squid gathers densely around the boat. Almost every hook is baited. The cold compartment is full. Joy spreads across the deck like a festival in the middle of the night sea. But there are also seasons when the water is unusually warm. The squid schools move further from shore or sink deep into the cold water, forcing the boats to turn hundreds of nautical miles further, diving aimlessly. Just hoping to catch the faint traces of life under the deep water. Longline squid fishing is not only a profession but also an art of waiting and perseverance. Those who do it must know how to read the sea like reading an open book. Every movement of the waves, every cold current, every dim light under the water are small signals telling them where to go and what to do. The captain, with his experienced eyes and years of sailing, becomes an indispensable guide for the entire ship. Their decisions, where to cast the line, when to retrieve it, whether to continue or return, can determine the success or failure of the entire trip. Each kilometer-long line is the connection between people and the ocean, between the undulating surface and the deep world below. That is why long-line squid fishing always has its own beauty, not as noisy as a trawl, not as rushed as a purse seine, but quiet, meticulous. And full of challenges. It requires each hook to be carefully prepared, each bait to be skillfully hooked so that it does not fall out when cast, and each meter of line to be neatly rolled up ready for reuse the next time. Each long line usually takes 6 to 8 hours to prepare, and after a night of use, the fishermen have to spend a few more hours removing the hooks, cleaning the lines, changing the bait, and maintaining the rusted or bent hooks. This is a labor-intensive and time-consuming job. But it cannot be reduced. If the line is not carefully cared for, it will deteriorate very quickly, especially under the constant impact of sea salt corrosion. The harshness of the job also lies in the fact that, no matter how good or experienced one is, no one can guarantee how much squid they will pull today. The sea is always changing. And squid are fast. Intelligent and extremely sensitive creature can change their behavior overnight. Sometimes the entire system of lines that were released in the fishing grounds that used to catch large batches of squid suddenly becomes empty, leaving the boat feeling disappointed and worried. But then, the fishermen are not discouraged. They learn to accept failure, correct mistakes, adjust strategies, and continue going the next day, continuing to release lines.